Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing today? I am Wilberforce Agyekum, an attorney at Ivy Law Office here in Greenbelt, Maryland. I wanted to briefly talk to you about marriages, spousal green card petitions. Recently, at our office, we've had some issues with individuals being accused of basically arranging their marriages in what is called a sham marriage in order to defraud the U.S. government to achieve an immigration benefit. So, generally, how these sham marriages work, uh, most people that come, immigrants coming to this country, there's a network of people who engage in these sham marriages. They form an organization or individuals who basically arrange a marriage between a United States citizen and that immigrant in order for the immigrant to be able to petition or the U.S. citizen spouse to petition for the immigrant's green card. And oftentimes, these people who arrange the sham marriage are the ones who also uh, put in the petition on behalf of the U.S. citizen and apply for benefits on behalf of the immigrant. So now you can avoid this. There are ways to avoid your marriage being classified as a sham or a fraudulent marriage. A sham marriage is basically that, a fraud. It's a crime against the United States. You are defrauding the government and the agency in attempt to gain a benefit, immigration benefit. Okay, so it's a very serious charge, and I'm going to go a little bit, talk a little bit about bona fide marriages, because bona fide marriage, if your marriage is real, you have nothing to worry about. Okay, if your marriage is real, meaning how we usually get married. You love your partner, you want to be together, you want to share life together, build a family together. If you at the age of putting together a family, you can do that. However, basically it has to be a bona fide marriage and not one that is arranged for the purposes of acquiring a United States immigration benefits for that immigrant. And that's what the entire process will attempt to ascertain from the time you apply or you put in the petition to the interview to whenever you do successfully gain the green card. The process will be attempting to determine whether or not your marriage is a sham or a bona fide marriage filled with love and all the good stuff and all the bad stuff that comes with marriage. Okay, so essentially that's the whole game right there. And lately, we've had some clients whose marriages have been determined to be fraud or at least alleged to be fraudulent. And when that happens, obviously the USCIS will send you a request for evidence in order to ascertain whether or not your marriage is really a bona fide one. Okay, and this usually stems from after the interview. The interview is where I always tell the client that's where the rubber meets the road. This is where a trained officer is about to ascertain whether or not your marriage is indeed real or fraudulent. Real or fraudulent. Okay, and you can't. It's hard to make something that's not real be real in real time in front of a trained officer. Okay, so let's go over this real quick. Um, Typically, what I say is, if it looks, sounds, and feels real, it's likely a bona fide marriage. If it looks, sounds, and feels real, it's likely a bona fide marriage. If it feels like an arrangement, it is likely a sham marriage, aka marriage fraud. Now, now you have to be able to show on paper and at the interview that your marriage is real. Okay? How do you do that? Well, the officer will look at certain things and relationship things and financial things and residential things about you. A shared history. A shared history. The more shared history you have, and you both can recount, like how you met, when you met, where the proposal occurred, what was said, what you ate, what you did that night. The more specific you can be about your shared experience in history, the more likely the officer will lean towards a bona fide marriage. Now, the interview, remember this, the interview is possible you could be separated. So some couples feel, oh, if we're there together, we can, help each other out or, be on the same page. You have to also be able to be on the same page if you're separated. So additional means to be able to show a bona fide marriage. Shared residence. That's a big one. You would think that it is a given that people who get married will start living together right away, if not before, these days, before they got married. So if you don't live together, typically from the time you got married, without any explanation as to why you got married, claiming to be a bona fide marriage, but you don't live together. Why? Are you able to explain that to the satisfaction of the immigration officer at the interview? So that's one of the biggest cues right there. Residence. Do you live together? Do you share the residence together? Are you both on the lease? Do you own the house together? Are you both on the mortgage? Insurance for the property? Are you both on it? Do you both reside there together? So you have to be at least able to show that part of your marriage is indeed bona fide. Shared finances. Most couples who get married also marry their finances. They put their bank accounts together. They get on each other's credit card accounts. They share utility bills. They share, cable. They share, most things are put together in the household together. So if you are able to show that, yes, you have basically married yourselves and your whole lives, the more you can show that, the more likely your marriage will be considered a bona fide one. Shared insurance, joint assets, shared social lives, and ultimately, especially if you have children together, right? Most people that enter into a bona fide marriage, if they're of childbearing age, they plan on having children. And if they have children together, that typically will mean that it's more likely a bona fide marriage than a sham marriage, because that's going too far. If you're in a sham marriage, you're going to make a baby as a part of that, then that's a problem. But if your marriage is bona fide and there's a child involved, obviously the officer will lean towards more of a bona fide family and marriage than a sham one. A sham marriage, the less of those things I just talked about with respect to bona fide marriage that you have, the more likely you're getting down to the sham level. If you don't live together, that's going to be a hard one. If you don't know much about each other, the history, if you have divergent experiences about where you met, who proposed, how was the proposal done, your living arrangement, what car you drive, where you work, the more you know each other as a couple who live together, the better. So if your marriage is real, you would know those things about each other, okay? And you're going to be asked about these questions, about these experiences and your living situation, okay? There's some people that have this image that all you have to do is get married. And for all you, my friends, and people in Africa and other countries who have been told by some of these sham marriage arrangements, just get to the United States on a visitor's visa, find an American, take your money, agree to pay an American or whoever's doing the arrangement, and you'll be able to get a green card. As I have just spoken to you about, marriage license is the easiest thing to get. Whether or not your marriage is a sham or bona fide will be dependent on what you can show, not just on paper, but also at the interview, which is in person at the USCIS in front of the officer. Okay, so be careful. If you're found to have engaged in a sham marriage, the ramifications and the consequences are serious and very troubling, because not only will you face certain punishment here, but you obviously will be, as the immigrant, you would be expelled from the country, and typically that's permanent bar, and you will not be able to return to the United States at all, even for a visit. Okay, now what do you face if you are found to have engaged in a sham marriage, other than what I just said? The charge of conspiracy to commit marriage fraud provides a sentence of up to 5 years in prison, 3 years of supervised release, and a fine of $250,000. Sentences are imposed by a federal district court judge based upon the U.S. sentencing guidelines and statutes, which governs the determination of a sentence in criminal cases. It's a criminal offense. Okay? So you want to make sure your marriage is a bona fide based on what I just talked about. If it isn't, you're facing a world of trouble, including imprisonment, fines, and for the immigrant, expulsion, and generally a permanent bar to the United States. So, with that said, if you're bona fide, if your marriage is bona fide and you're still getting into a situation with USCIS and you need it to be responded to, then you want to go ahead and actually you may need to hire an attorney at that point, because it becomes kind of an adversarial process, and you have to be able to at least make a case that you are involved in a bona fide marriage and it is not fraudulent and an attempt to defraud the U.S. government for an immigration benefit. Okay, so brief talk on that. If you need assistance, contact us at Ivy Law Office. I'm Attorney Wilberforce Agyekum. You can call us at 301 276 0887, or you can reach us on our website, which is www.ivylawoffice.com. All right, we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining me.